Okay, here I go, experimenting again. Don't know how it'll turn out. I've got a written journal, but somehow I'm just not in the right energy to share it right this second. So I figured that maybe I would talk a little while and either this becomes a live journal or it doesn't. I don't know, we'll see. I'm fond of saying that we create our experience here, our life, our reality. And I suppose many of us have heard the old saying that, and it's also recent, I forget exactly the words, but it's to the effect that you don't see what's out there, you see what you are. You don't see what is, you see what you are. People used to say seeing is believing, and in the backwards universe style, it turns out it's more accurate to say believing is seeing, because your beliefs control what you see. So how many of us are there? Or rather, I think we're all on this track. So how well are we doing with taking ownership of our life, with recognizing that everything we see is self? And so it does no good to condemn anything, because we're just condemning the self. This is endless. I'm sure there's tomes written on it. It goes so deep. But we haven't been taught, and we're just learning now to recognize ourselves as divine and as creators. And to recognize that our tools are literally our thoughts, our beliefs. And we use those to structure the reality that we experience. Abraham Hicks is pretty good at shining a light on this and trying to show people that there's nothing more important than being in the vortex, so to speak. In other words, in heart, centered, in attunement, whatever kind of words you want to put on it, in higher consciousness, whatever. That's what counts. And then there's no destination that we're headed for. The journey is the point. The now is all there is. It's the point. And the whole concept of destinations is linear. Very, very 3D. And we're in process, a lot of us, of graduating from that. So it's time to recognize these things, whatever speaks to you, to your heart, and make friends with it. Anytime we're pointing a finger of blame, let's turn that finger back around and point it at the self. Self, and now here, in heart. The now is our point of power, and anytime we get outside of the now, we clip our wings. We really do. We cease to have direct access to the fullness of self. Now, I'm also fond of saying, you're perfect, and so is everything else. What do I mean by that? It gets down to identity, doesn't it? Who do you take yourself to be? Most of us spend the bulk of our days in the left brain, listening to the chatter. You know, the hamster wheel going around and round and round. And letting that create our reality for us. And as long as we think that's who we are, then we're lost. That's a part we're playing. That's not who we are. It's like identifying with your car. if you're identified with your car, then when it gets a scratch on it, you get very upset. You know, it's just something terrible. But if you'll just take 10 paces back and have a look at that, you'll laugh. You'll be able to see what's going on there. It's our attachments and our false sense of self. And so anything we're evaluating from left brain, that's not who you are. And so you're not bringing the whole of yourself to it. Heart vision is far, far deeper, and that's where our perfection lies. And it's an already perfect now thing. It's an already enlightened now thing. And it's just a matter of uncluttering the vision from the old thoughts and beliefs and getting them out of the way, because that's what's been used to box us in. And yeah, we're the ones doing the boxing because we've chosen those beliefs. Okay? So, thinking that you're going to be perfect in your human self is a big mistake, in my opinion. I mean, all I can do is offer that here. Your human self will never be perfect. Your human self will never speak truth, because truth is not something that's present in 3D. This realm is illusory, and if you want truth, it's a higher dimensional thing than that. It's a higher frequency thing. And so that's why the sages and the wise ones say, all we are is a finger pointing at the moon. You know, don't get stuck on the finger. Don't get stuck on the body-mind aspect of your experience. That's your experience. That's not yourself. And so if you're going to identify with divinity, it takes letting go of all of the rest of it. And it takes, I think it takes acknowledging that the human isn't perfect and isn't meant to be. It just is what it is. And so we each have a dark side as well as a light side. That's a property of 3D, it seems to me, because if you have all light and only light, nothing is visible. You're blinded. If you have all dark and only dark, nothing is visible. You can't see. And so 3D itself is a balance of the light and the dark, is it not? It's an exercise in contrast. And it's something we wanted very much when we took on these incarnations, these bodies. So we get sensations and experiences here that are not available to us as spirit, as higher consciousness, or not available from that realm. I mean, in reality, everything is one, and so everything is accessible, but not while you're wearing a body. I mean, not the body-mind is not going to access that. You can, but not the body-mind. You are that, and that's why I say when we reside in heart, that's the portal. That's where you can have one foot in one world and one in the other. Now, the worlds aren't separate. All the dimensions are right here where we are, just like all the radio stations, all the TV stations, and so on. It's a matter of frequency and frequency control, and we're learning that. Our different chakras vibrate at different frequencies, and it's not that the base chakra is bad and the crown chakra is good. I mean, that's insane, is it not? And yet that's the kind of logic some people are using. This whole concept of bad and good, I think, needs to go. It's more like electricity, where it has the negative polarity and the positive polarity, and without both and a ground, you don't get the power that you're looking for there. The charge just isn't there. It's just powerless. Okay? So how about we do some work toward owning our dark side and quit saying that it's bad. It is not. It is a contrasting experience to the light. And as long as we maintain heart focus or being sent, whatever, use your words. The words don't matter. Listen to what's being said here. As long as we're centered, we're fine. And the right decisions will be made, the right words spoken, the right actions taken. And if you find yourself losing your temper over something or another, just be self-observant. Just watch that going down, and then sit quietly later. Be in heart to ponder it. Keep your mind the heck out of it. All right? When mind is the problem, you don't use mind to find the solution. Duh. Okay? So, trying to be lily white, trying to be good, being a people pleaser, all these kinds of activities, I think, are an unwillingness to own the dark side. And if you're here, you have one. That's just the way of it. You can thank God that you're not clairvoyant, and that your third eye isn't open such that you're constantly seeing into people's auras, because we all have attachments. We all have thought forms, entities, energies that are across the frequency range, dark, as well as light, as well as the invisibles that are working with us, and so on. And this is the realm that we're navigating. And those things are not evil. They are not bad. Can we think? Can we get out of the whole judgmental thing and look at it like electricity? Without both positive and negative, you don't have the charge. You don't have the current. Or look at it with light. Without the contrast, you can't see anything. All dark, all light doesn't work. It's the balance that's required. The beauty of the balance is what gives you the current that you can control. Okay, I guess I'll read this one. Got myself in the mood. This is from 8/29, the first journal of the day, and the Mayan day was 8-Monkey, also called the Weaver of Time. Now this one has 3 links I like a whole lot. One of them is a book by Richard Bach called Hypnotizing Maria that you don't even have to read. You can listen to Grace Butler read it to you. It's very short, and it's deeply, well, it's like Jonathan Livingston Seagull in its own way. Bach is deep. And then there is one by Ken Carey that is, she's reading again. It's only 8 parts. It's really good. Collective Human Consciousness. And then Seth, The Nature of Personal Reality. All of those are read to you. You don't have to read. Okay. Got an idea of something I'd like to share here, but going to have to trust heart or source to put it into words. So, let's all get down into heart and just turn away from all thoughts for the journal time. Well, for best results. Okay. Now, be who you truly are. Remember your divine nature and true identity. Settle down into that, or heck, rise up into it. Either way, just set aside the avatar for a while. Take a break from that. I mean, we're in that all the time, all the time, all the time. Basically, most people are in that all of their life. So enjoy the journals as a time to just give yourself permission to ignore your mind. As source, you are a creator in your own right. You may have been lied to your whole life about this, but this is straight talk. You create your own life. Now, I know that's hard to hear, and I feel some of you in frustration with it. That's mind. Let go. Be happy. Who you are is always joyous and unconcerned. Be unconcerned. Now, don't even listen to what mind has to say to that. Just nix it for now. Time enough to play around in the mind playground later. It will only detour you here. As a creator, your tools are your thoughts and beliefs, so your self-talk really counts. It counts a heck of a lot more than most of us know or want to acknowledge. Depending on where you are on your path, I'd say that for everyone, it's a time for self-observation. I don't think it depends on where you are on your path. I just think it's a good thing. The first order of business would seem to be to get acquainted with those thoughts, which for most of us are not where we put our focus. Our attention tends to be always on the outside, on whatever is happening, whomever is talking, on whatever show we're watching, blah, blah. So, if you're at a point where you're still that outside focused, then simple self-observation would seem to be the next best step. Self, and now here in heart, covers those bases pretty darn well. As we become more aware of the mind's activities, as we develop the necessary breathing room between self and mind, then we've got more presence, more awareness, which is key. The question here might simply be, how much time am I in heart and how much in head? And then two, just self-observe. Don't try to change anything, just watch what is. If you're trying to change anything, that's mind at work. Observe is a hands-off kind of thing. You see, until we are fully present in now here, we haven't really come back into the self. We're not really here, instead being spread out all over the place, across time, across space, into things and relationships, etc. In my book, we're not fully conscious at that point, but go by your own heart's estimation, of course. So, those who have left behind all concept of time, as in no thought of past, no anticipation of future, these are in the driver's seat, and it's almost none of us all the time, but I think it's most of us some of the time. These have a great shot at really tuning in, as the bulk of the mind babbling has been silenced, at least most of the time. Now come on, we're all human too, so let's not be automatons about anything. 3D isn't the realm for that sort of sterile perfection. That's an idea of perfection, not the real thing. The links I share with this journal I think are important, besides being a great deal of fun. I really enjoyed Richard Bach's Hypnotizing Maria. It's both short and sweet, but also full of the meat of how to change consciousness. And it's so easy. We have to adjust how we see things, but we can easily do that. Having a great book like this to prime the pump, though, well, that's just precious. It's Grace Butler reading the book, so that makes it easy too. We've got to come into a sense of the ability to respond, responsibility about the contents of our consciousness. It's time to both take stock of what's in our self-talk, but also what are our beliefs? What's generating that self-talk, in other words? It's important to know what these beliefs are and to decide on each one, keep or go. These are the very tools we've used all our life to craft our current reality, and they're still in our hands. We can change things in I wrote very serious ways, but joyous ways. It's all about choice. Choice in our use of free will. What beliefs would you choose if you were a little G God and could design anything you like? What simply feels good to you? Now, it's highly important to stay out of mind with this. Trust me, heart can think, else it wouldn't make neurotransmitters. It wouldn't contain neurons. Only the thinking, it just isn't mental, my friends. You'll each have to get down in there and stay enough to begin to get the sense of it. And there's a whole bunch of you that well know the sense of it. But for those that don't know, you know how you feel when you get an intuition, for instance. It doesn't come in as thought, but more as a knowing or as a feeling or sensing, more like that. I call it pondering to distinguish it from thinking, but that's just me, pick your own words. For those gifted that way, right brain thinking is just fine, as it too is more feeling or sensing oriented, so it works. The artists among us are way ahead in these kind of things. Now the thing is, the minute you see any judgment, any sense of right and wrong, of good and bad, that sort of thing, that's mind. You won't find that in heart, guaranteed. So just take it for a sign that mind has popped in, no big deal, and just don't trust its outcome. Don't trust what it has to say. I don't see anything more important right now than us taking back our power in this way, our power to create. Now, heck, we're doing it anyway. We might as well own it, huh? We've got, each one of us, all kinds of frankly stupid ideas in our head about what causes what, about how things happen and why, all that stuff. Well, 90% of that drops out when you realize that all time is just now. Just what is now here. All your lives are now. Every minute in this life is only now. With no past and no future, since all is just now, oops, there went all karma. Right down the drain. You see what I mean? We don't come in to take our punishment for things we did before. What's before? It's a concept. We've been fed one reality, but not the highest one by any means. We can reach higher. I call this owning our consciousness. Remember, to do it, it works best when you stick to the present moment. Forget plans for the future, my friends. That is not this kind of intentional creating, since that is mind and time-based. Anything having to do with time is mind. Stay in heart with me here. It makes heart sense, but not head sense, so it's on you to stay centered and present. What happens is you get well centered in the present moment, and then you feel for what is the best set of beliefs to have. You go more by the seat of your pants than by thought. Thought is out. You go by feel. What feels just right. There, in the present moment with you, is your awareness that you use your beliefs to create. Thought and belief. You can start out gently and slowly by just self-observing your thoughts, realizing as they go by that, hey, they are creating stuff. So you go for what is the feel of what they will likely create. And again, you're not interfering here. Leave everything. You're just watching. You're not trying to change anything, fix anything, alter anything. You're just observing. If you're in heart, you'll get more of the sense of what those thoughts are likely to create. It will be like each thought will give you a readout of its likely creations. You'll just get the sense of it. And then you're off to the races, so to speak. It will be a combination of leading and following those thoughts and those heart ponderings. As you remain at your center, your consciousness will expand. It always does, but we're often too busy getting distracted by mind to notice. Then, 10 minutes later, we realize it, hijacked yet again. Well, that's okay too. Truly, it is. Just laugh. Everything is just fine. No more, absolutely no more beating up on yourself for anything. Not for anything. That's judgmental. When you're truly in heart, you won't allow mind to abuse you that way. Once you get the sense of what it's like to be there, there's a real dignity and strength and power that comes with it. You gain and grow in self-respect. You're coming into the sense of your divinity. It's fully present there in heart. All it takes is sufficient determination to stay there often enough and long enough to tune in, and you will. Remember, you are source. What you want, you get. Okay, I guess this doesn't have to be long, or maybe when I record it, I'll be inspired to do some more sharing along these lines. This is just so keenly powerful and important for each one to know. It's the start of a completely changed life, the start to amazing powers coming back into our use. But let's not get off into what those could be. That would lead to anticipation, to creating a future when all there truly is right now and here. We can trust Source to manifest whatever is appropriate. And we're the ones doing that. Yeah, I know, it's bizarre. Oh well, that's just what it is. If you pay attention to the links I put with the written journals, you'll definitely be ahead. They'll support you in whatever I'm saying in the journal. They'll give you some support. I'll repeat one of them and include Book 1 of Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, also read by Grace. Excuse me, did I put that one up there? Oh boy, gotta go back and fix that. I didn't think I had. That one will get you quickly into the sense of the miraculous. It'll bathe you in that. Now, so will those others attached here. We have had the sense of the possible taken from us when we were quite young. Let's not worry about all the whys and wherefores of that, but rather just concentrate on writing the boat, on just sticking to now here, to what is. Anything is possible, my friends, anything at all, but not from mind. It gets back to what is said in so many scriptures, but it's well said in the Christian Bible, with the faith of a grain of mustard, which is perhaps the smallest seed making the largest plant. We could move mountains, literally. That's not necessarily figurative. At least I don't take it that way. Such things have been done. And you'll be exposed to them in the Life and Teachings book about that group of scientists who went to Asia to test what they'd heard about the masters over there. Anything is possible. I highly recommend this as one major belief to adopt. It will likely flush up whatever old beliefs are in its way, so be ready to see that and willing to let them go. You can go all the way, but you gotta commit. No doubt allowed. Doubt is a product of mind. You make your best assessment if something is worthy to go for, and then you just do it. No looking back. Faith. It's way deeper than that, but at least I think that gives the flavor. The quicker we work on ourselves, get into now, the quicker our reality will shift. We start seeing more and more things that somehow just sync up. It's like what Abraham Hicks calls being in the vortex, you know. Same diff. Oh, and of course, maybe the first new belief to adopt, we create our own reality based on our thoughts and beliefs. And our emotions too, but those flow from the foundational thoughts and beliefs. So please, own up, be willing to own up to being the creator of your reality. And of course, have lots of fun with it. Namaste. And to recognize that our tools are literally our thoughts, our beliefs. And we use those to structure the reality that we experience. Abraham Hicks is pretty good at shining a light on this and trying to show people that there's nothing more important than being in the vortex, so to speak. In other words, in heart, centered, in attunement, whatever kind of words you want to put on it, in higher consciousness, whatever. That's what counts. And then there's no destination that we're headed for. The journey is the point. The now is all there is. It's the point. And the whole concept of destinations is linear. Very, very 3D. And we're in process, a lot of us, of graduating from that. So it's time to recognize these things, whatever speaks to you, to your heart, and make friends with it. Anytime. Letting that create our reality for us. And as long as we think that's who we are, then we're lost. That's the part we're playing. That's not who we are. It's like identifying with your car. If you're identified with your car, then when it gets a scratch on it, you get very upset. You know, it's just something terrible. But if you'll just take 10 paces back and have a look at that, you'll laugh. You'll be able to see what's going on there. It's our attachments and our false sense of self. And so anything we're evaluating from left brain, that's not who you are. And so you're not bringing the whole of yourself to it. Heart vision is far, far deeper, and that's where our perfection lies. And it's an already, we're pointing a finger of blame. Let's turn that finger back around and point it at the self. Self, and now here, in heart. The now is our point of power, and anytime we get outside of the now, we clip our wings. We really do. We cease to have direct access to the fullness of self. Now, I'm also fond of saying, you're perfect, and so is everything else. What do I mean by that? it gets down to identity, doesn't it? Who do you take yourself to be? Most of us spend the bulk of our days in the left brain, listening to the chatter. You know, the hamster wheel going round and round and round. And what's out there, you see what you are. You don't see what is, you see what you are. People used to say seeing is believing, and in the backwards universe style, it turns out it's more accurate to say believing is seeing, because your beliefs control what you see. So how many of us are there? Or rather, I think we're all on this track. So how well are we doing with taking ownership of our life, with recognizing that everything we see is self? And so it does no good to condemn anything, because we're just condemning the self. This is endless. I'm sure there's tomes written on it. It goes so deep. But we haven't been taught, and we're just learning now to recognize ourselves as divine and as creators. Okay, here I go, experimenting again. Don't know how it'll turn out. I've got a written journal, but somehow I'm just not in the right energy to share it right this second. So I figured that maybe I would talk a little while, and either this becomes a live journal or it doesn't. I don't know, we'll see. I'm fond of saying that we create our experience here, our life, our reality. And I suppose many of us have heard the old saying that, and it's also recent, I forget exactly the words, but it's to the effect that you don't see